Welcome to the No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. This is a show about pushing through obstacles and hard times in order to live a happy and fulfilled life. I'm your host, Ted Phaeton, and it's a pleasure to have you joining us. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's grow. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. It's a pleasure to have you as always. Big shout out to my executive producer, Andre Suttles with Subtle Solution, helping to make this podcast possible. I'm excited. We have a great one for you today. And I was just talking before, I had this guest on my phone for about 6 to 7 months before I reached out. It is a pleasure to finally have you on the podcast. Moody Black, welcome.
Man, well, hey, I'm glad to be here. It's an honor. Thank you for having me, bro. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. And I know we first met a few years back at an event that you spoke on. You shared some verses, which was very impactful. I remember I was streaming it. I was recording it. For anybody that's listening right now who hasn't been lucky enough to be introduced to you yet, why not really quick introduce yourself, tell them who you are and what it is you do, brother.
Whoo, y'all get ready. It's a list. Well, I am Moody Black, man. Originally from Spartanburg, South Carolina. I'm in Greenville now. Born and bred in South Carolina, South Cat, as they call it. But I'm an artist. I mean, if you want to put me in a box as an artist, but I'm a visual artist. I draw and paint. I'm a spoken word artist. So I write these words and I express these words poetically. I'm a hip hop artist. I love writing rhymes and doing hip hop, and especially offering some substance and content. And it's jamming, by the way. But I'm a nerd. I love watching my Marvel comic movies. I love sci-fi. I'm an avid reader, man. A lot of self-help stuff I love reading. I'm a motivational speaker. I love speaking to the youth. I've done a lot of schools, spoke to a lot of homeless people, help them with their situation or give them hope. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I have different brands. I'm a brand ambassador. I help other people push their brands. So yeah, my talent and skill encompass all of that, my brother. So
yeah.
Woo! There we go.
I love that. And hey, I've
beard model. I'm a beard model. Yeah, beard and fashion model, by the way. There you
go. Be sure to follow the Instagram page, which I'll also have in the show notes as well. But
yeah,
I respect the hustle, man, and I see you working so hard, and I love the art that you produce. And I know it's amazing to articulate feeling and emotion. And it's not something that comes easy for somebody like myself. And you even mentioned in your TED Talk how we are all poets. I'd love to unlock a little bit of that realization for you of where was the catalyst that went from these emotions that we feel, or for you that you feel, to putting that out on pen or paper or on canvas. How was that transition for you?
Man, it was a great thing. I always tell people this story. My mom, single mom at the time, and much props my father. He was in the house. So I want to paint this picture of this poverty-stricken, single mom situation, which it was poor, not poor, it was poor. But my mom was very artistic, very intelligent woman. Hats off to mom. But she would work all day and she'd take these evening courses and she'll bring home these thick literature books for my sister and I to read these poems. We were like, no, we don't read no poetry. But me being nosy one day, my mom had this hallway in the bookshelf, only bookshelf we had in the house, maybe 3 tiers on it. I'm just being nosy and curious, and I was bored. And I found this book. It's entitled This Time Called Life by Walter Render. He's a poet on the West Coast, wrote during the 60s. But I saw these young people on the cover playing. I'm like, okay, we see pictures first. Especially I'm like 11 years old, so I start flipping, and all these images, these black and white photos, these young people being free and playing, and I start reading the poems that go with it. And it's about being young and free. And I'm like, okay. And I started reading these poems, and I started having a connection. Like, okay, poetry, it can talk to me. Okay. So I had to go back, had an appreciation for my mom introduced me to. I had to go back and read the Nikki Giovanni's, the Langston Hughes, the Maya Angelou's. And I started writing myself, just my little 11, 12-year-old brain. Do you like me? I like you. I just want to be free. This bondage. Oh man, we have so many troubles at 11 and 12, I tell you. But anyway, but it allowed me to express myself. And when I speak to young people, I let them know, hey, this is another avenue. This is a door. It may not be the end all, the be all. If you have some real serious stuff, go seek professional help. but this is the opportunity for you to get free, to express yourself, and allow me to do the same thing. So I want to spread that gift to young people. And I do adult workshops too. So I tell anybody, man, you're a poet. Just write your feelings down. That's a start. Just write them down. Start with the page first. But I promise you, if you share your thoughts and feelings, you're gonna realize you're more connected to a lot more people than you think. You're never the only one. We always feel like we're the only ones going through something.
Yeah.
You tell your story, you realize you're not the only one.
That's like a thought I've had for a while, and I keep reiterating to people. I say, our problems are not our own. And a lot of times when we have our problem, we think we're the only ones with it because it's the first time we're facing that problem. But chances are there's somebody else in life that's had the experience or
exactly
had to go through it. And I love when you mention about, just writing it down, because I've adopted the habit of journaling. And at the end of the day, I'll kind of just write my reflection on the day, write how I performed, how I feel like I did. If something significant happened that stuck out, I'll kind of write it down. What I'm learning is as I'm writing those emotions day in and day out, it almost becomes a little bit easier to articulate. It's almost like before we could find our voice, we first have to speak and have to be willing to not be articulate in order to be articulate. I think that's where a lot of us stop. How can we keep going? How can we keep reiterating that practice to eventually find our voices, man?
Well, I will say for these days of time, unfortunately, we have this virus that made us just do everything virtual. But what I'm discovering when I'm hosting my open mics during the day, I'm having a lot of people that get on the live and may share a poem only because they've never done it before and they see all these other people doing it, start feeling comfortable. I've had people come out open mic like for weeks before they even get up and share anything because they realize, or they've been really nervous or scared, or they wrote before and they stopped, but they get so encouraged. Once again, you feel like you see that you're not the only person doing something or going through something. Like, well, you know what? They're telling my story. I got a story too. I'm gonna share my story. So to get connected, find an outlet, get with some people, get some groups, whatever that's out there to showcase what you have, to express yourself and what you're going through, because there's other people. And I think it's our thing as human beings. We want to feel like we're not the only ones. You get around some other people, you're like, okay, this is cool. Okay, I could do this thing. So I would prescribe to anyone, just if you don't have the nerve just off the bat to do it, get with some groups, get just get accustomed to what's going on and just be cool, and then it'll come out.
Yeah.
You'll be compelled. You know what I'm saying? Get that bug bites you. You out there reciting.
all of a sudden you feel what it's like, and then you want to come back for seconds, thirds, and then some more.
Right, exactly. Matter of fact, when COVID hit and I started doing open mics, which really started, I have a chap book that's out, a little poetry book, and I would just get on live and I'll read 2 poems. I may be 15 minutes on the live, and then poets would start coming in asking could they share. But the one person in particular was there every day. And shout out to my homie in St. Louis. She hit me on Facebook with her poems, just trying to get some people to read her poems. And I read this beautiful poem, and I told her I loved it. And I'm doing this live thing. So she would come in. I'm like, you want to read? She was like, I've never done that, and I'm never going to do it. It took her like almost a month just to actually get on the screen and share a poem, because she started seeing other people doing it. She started getting comfortable, and I will make sure she feel comfortable as well. And now she's hosting too. She's performing everywhere on these lives.
Nice.
Yeah, I get it, man. I get it.
I think that's the process a lot of people need to kind of understand and see is first having the idea, the thought, and then being in that environment where those around you are encouraging and comfortable environment to do so. I know you've been doing a number of open mics. This is pre-COVID when you're first coming up. I guess talk about your journey and your experience, because it's one thing to be a poet, right? It's another thing to make a living off of being a poet, and that's something been able to transition.
Tell you, man.
Talk about that transition.
Challenge.
Yeah.
Well, once I was young, man, I was doing the school. Teachers would see my gift and they make me read in front of the class. And back then, and it's changed a little bit now, but doing poetry wasn't a cool thing. So I got teased and ridiculed, but I kept with it because it made me feel good. You know what I'm saying? But when I got to high school, when I always tell the story to young people, the same people, especially like the athletes, they go hard on me, man. But they'll see me by myself in high school. Hey, bro, you think you could write me a poem to get my girlfriend? I'm like, yeah, $10. There you go. Yeah. So my entrepreneurship was hitting early, man. So I would do that, and then the guys, the ladies, like, because I was that dude. I was that dude who wrote the poems,
Nice.
and the ladies were like, I want to write a poem, my boyfriend. Or I have a poem I have to do for this assignment. $10. So I was making money for doing that, man. So it's always in me. But 5 years ago, I started doing it full time, man. I just went through my second marriage failed.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? I got to do something different in my life. You know, I made all these connections doing poetry all these years because I would host open mics, and I've done these competitions and festivals and meet so many poets from around the world, around the country, basically. And so I had all these, accumulated all these connections. People hosted open mics and venues. So I'm hosting and paying people to come and perform. I'm like, well, there's several people doing what I'm doing. Let me go hit their venues and let me get paid to do that. So I set up a tour, man. I actually was in the hospital. I had both my lungs filled with blood clots.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had like a knee surgery and all that messed it up. And had I not went to the hospital, I thought I had a heart attack or something. They made me stay in the hospital, man. And that had a lot of time to really soul search. And I took that jump. And I just really as years went on, just kind of really learning more about the game, trying to find different avenues with poetry, because I just couldn't do just the poetry. My first year was doing that. And it's a huge toll, man, if you're not prepared for it. And I tell people now when I'm doing workshops, you know, pay yourself to do your own stuff. If you work in a job, if you want to transition out, well, stack some money first. But see me, I just jumped. I was out there, and I fell fast, bro. I fell fast. So that experience taught me, okay, now let me make sure I start saving more money. And I tell people, if you're going to do this first. Save your money first and go out there. But not just doing these shows and performing your sets, but find different ways to make it a business. You know, I do voiceover work. I've had people from like the United Way and other companies have me do voiceovers for what they're doing. I may do a poem, you know what I'm saying? People, you know, so that's another avenue of being a brand ambassador. I'm representing different brands. People pay me for that, you know, getting to the school. So I became a certified teaching artist. Now I go not only through the Arts Council, they contract me, but I can contract myself through my own business and go out there and teach young people how to write and teach adults how to write. So you got to find different ways to make it work. And you know, I had a couple of falls along the way, and in COVID, but that was the biggest monster. I was like doing good. I'm like, oh, now I can't go to schools no more. There we go. but being an entrepreneur, you have to find other ways. And now virtual, you know, okay, now I got to do it this way. So let me study the game, let me reinvent myself, let me go this way. So just having an entrepreneur spirit, just not giving up.
And I love that, because the resourcefulness just in that story from high school. You mentioned the first thing I wrote down was wear it on your sleeve, because you said, yeah, in high school, it was not the popular thing to do, but you were that dude. And because you were that dude, sure, in the public or in the front of the classroom, the jocks might be a little, you know, have their chest out and like, oh yeah, whatever. But on the side, they're like, yo, man, you know, let me but capitalizing.
I'll take that because I got their money. I'm like, okay, you climb me how you want to. After class, you pay me.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is applying that and finding out the entrepreneurship in you, seeing where that skill can be applied to in voiceover work, brand ambassador work, and in the schools. That's amazing to understand that a lot of us look at our skill set and we put ourselves in a box, or we put ourselves in one lane, and we're like, well, this is what I do. But we don't understand that the skills that make us successful in lane A might also make us successful in lane C. Lane B might not be for us, but lane C, just two lanes over, can also be another route.
Right.
So that's really important. What is it you think about poetry, good poetry, that resonates with so many people? What bridges that gap? What does that tap into for people?
Make it accessible. And one of the things I've seen just do, especially in the poetry slam community, because there's a lot of competition and people try to outright each other. And one thing that gets lost when I watch people, and when I'm done performing, a lot of time I listen to people. When we get so far and so ethereal as writers, we lose connection with people, with the everyday lay person who's coming to learn, may not know a lot about poetry, and then they see it, they're mystified by it. But if you're not connected with them, you done lost them. So I think the biggest thing is to I'm not by no means saying dumb it down, but you want to be able to relate. You got to have relatable content. You got to have relatable subject matter to bridge that gap to this art that people feel like they can't touch it, to bring it to them so they can touch it. You know, a lot of my favorite poets are poets who tell this story, their personal story, and make it artsy, to make it creative. But they can tell it's a story involved where they can learn a lesson from. Or somebody say, "Yo, that's my story. Yo, I didn't think I could write it, but that person's speaking it.
Mhm.
I dig that. Now I like this poetry stuff. I seen people do it. Like, oh man, I didn't know poetry was like this. I like it now." Because all we know is just from what we learned in school, and it's all about how you teach it too. Back then, we learned some of the greats, some of the old archaic poets, which I respect. But a lot of kids can't relate to E. E. Cummings or Williams Wordsworth, you know, and a
Yeah.
lot of those are, you know, Robert Frost and all those. They're great in their own right. But you get a kid from the hood, I'm not understanding that. I can't
Mhm.
relate. It's not in the language I can understand. You know, even if it's in a beautiful archaic language, the subject matters, I can't relate to it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's what I get from all the youth. So you got to be able to bring that down so they can make it, they can digest it and chew it. You got to make it relatable. You
Yeah.
know, so I'm starting to see a lot more of that. This past 10 years, I've seen that kind of grow and evolve with people. A lot more people are realizing I can do this too. I can write. I can get this out
Yeah.
because there's a connection.
I love the way you explain that, because I think, when we mentioned some of the experiences we go through and our problems not being our own, some of the poetry that's resonated with me so well has been the connection I felt to it, in terms of they articulate how I feel. Like, it's almost like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we've all been there, where you hear a coupling of words, or you hear a quote, or you read a verse, and it beautifully describes exactly your feeling in that moment, or at a certain moment in time. And that's where that
Mm-hmm.
connection to it comes. Um, my favorite poem, for listeners and for you, is I'm not sure if you're familiar with the "If" poem, by Rudyard Kipling, and
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
it breaks down
Okay.
all of the intricacies of what it means to be a man. And when I read that, it's something that, when I first read it, I had to kind of learn the pace of it. And this is kind of getting to the nuances of poetry, how
Mm-hmm.
there's structures, and then there's other poems that I've heard that don't necessarily have that structure. It's more disruptive. What are those different structures, and I guess what's the strategy and the use of each?
Well, and when I do my workshops, I break it down, especially since I've done a lot of IG live. I come across a lot of poets who just, come on there, share their poetry. When I let them know how to do these workshops and I talk about the technical stuff, like, wow, I didn't know that was that. Because even when I was growing in this art form, and you've been writing a certain way, I'm like, wow, I didn't know that was a double entendre. I didn't know, oh, that was called that right there. That wordplay was this right here, oh, this is alliteration. I didn't know this. We just wrote from our heart. But when I start realizing that these things have a name, I'm able, oh, now I can learn more about this particular poetic device. I can use it more. I can utilize it more. So once I study more of that, I'm able to I guess, to fix my poems in a way that could be really, really clever. I can have a lot more intelligence. But because I'm so in tune with the hood, I can be slick about it. I can slide these in and give these lessons to people. They're like, man, that's crazy. What is that called? So I can tell them this is what it is right here. You know what I'm saying? So that's very important to know those things. And I was fascinated once I found out that these things had a name. You know what I mean? These had a name. This is an actual device. One of my favorite devices besides imagery is internal rhyme. And especially being a hip hop head, Rakim was a master of internal rhyme and a rich rhyme. When I found out that when you see it on paper, the last two words don't look like it rhyme, but when you say it, you can make it rhyme. That's called a rich rhyme. Eminem is like a master of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, if you read these two words he just rhymed on paper, they don't look nothing like this should rhyme. But how you say it, how you enunciate it, stretch it, or stretch a syllable, or stretch a vowel, you can make that word rhyme together. And when I discovered the rich rhyme, like, wow, that's what it's called. Oh man, Eminem does that a lot, you know.
Hmm.
So it's but I can do myself to young people by doing it. I can mention a rapper or somebody listen to using that. Oh yeah, I know that. Oh, that's what that's called. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's a great way to bridge the gap, man, and introduce those terms. And it is important. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Man, especially as you grow with it. But I always tell people like you say, if you want a journal, that's a start. Just write it out. Get that's let's take first steps. Let's go to A first. We get to Z, let's go to A first.
Yeah.
So but as you go along, I throw in some stuff here and there, throw a term at them, throw a poetic device, and they can get a little slicker with their rhymes
And
or
I
their
love that,
poems.
because that's kind of talking about the importance of the toolbox, right? And
Mm-hmm.
understanding really the structures of what's in there. And we always say, hey, you need to break you need to know the rules before you can break the rules. And kind of what you're just mentioning is
Right.
learning the structures and learning those tools in the toolbox. And now that you
Mm,
know the tools in the toolbox, listen, a hammer in my hand can do some things. I could hammer a nail, but you put the hammer in a skilled carpenter, they can build a house.
ooh,
And that is the
yes.
difference, is who's wielding that hammer. So learning the tools in your toolbox is huge on building that.
Yes.
What's some of the most
Uh,
fulfilling things you've been able to experience through your poetry and its impact on others, man?
ooh, man, it's so many stories. One in particular, years ago when I was in Spartanburg, I did a show through Hub City,
Mhm.
and I did a poem dealing with domestic violence based on a true story of someone I knew was, whose daughter was getting abused and eventually was murdered by a boyfriend. I told that story in the poem, and when I stepped down, this tall dude, about 6'3", and his tiny little wife came to me, and she's crying, she's bawling, and I didn't know what to expect, and he was like, "You got to excuse her, man. It's just that your poem touched her because before we got married, she just got out of a situation like that. The dude tried to kill her. You
Wow.
know what I'm saying? Everything you said was her story.
Yeah.
And we just want to tell you." And he's speaking for her like she just, we want to say thank you, man, because, you give others, I guess, to be on notice that this can happen for real. This is somebody's real life. This ain't just words. So my wife want to say thank you. You know what I'm saying? And I used to think it was cliche. Poets used to wear these T-shirts that say "Poetry Save Lives." I used to think it was cliche till I started really getting serious, like really start getting professional, and I start seeing it. I'm talking about people who ready to kill themselves will come to open mic and just, wow, I needed that. Rethink their life. I got somebody I know personally who started coming, way before this COVID stuff years ago to our open mic and was like, man, okay, I can do this. I can tell my story like that. Man, I don't want to kill myself now.
Right.
And it really saved lives. So I had people approach me and tell me that. That's
Mhm.
like the biggest most rewarding thing I've ever experienced, when people tell me that it helped them. Even especially now when I was going to the schools, I've had kids, like the teachers always have the kids like write thank you letters or something like that. But I always had like a handful of kids that tell me, yo, I used to hate poetry, but I love it now. Or,
Mhm.
no, this is pretty cool. Now I got a voice. You know what I'm saying? I did
Yeah.
a workshop at Woodmont Middle School, and the teacher was crying because one of the kids who never says anything. I staged the open mic. We did a workshop every day, and the last day we did an open mic where the kids went to the theater and they all got on stage. This redhead kid got on the mic and read his poem, and the teacher started crying. I'm like, "You okay?" She said, "No, cause I'm okay, but this young man, this whole semester has said nothing, and he has a voice. Like he said his poem, and he has self-esteem issues. And he read it, and the teacher broke down crying. So stuff
Wow.
like that, man, it's a reward. It lets you know, like, well, okay, keep doing what you're doing, Moody. Just stay with it. It's gonna pay off. You're doing something good. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I love that. I love that. And to the listeners that are probably sitting on the edge, whether it's journaling, starting your poetry or whatnot, find purpose in your pen and just
Mm.
apply it. And I'll be the first to tell you, when I started journaling, I didn't know what I was writing down, and I'd be like, well, today was Tuesday and I had pizza for dinner, but but sometimes there's moments that stick with you, where like even little moments of reflection. I've spent the longest away from my parents with this whole COVID thing, and me not being an emotional person that much. Just the fact of being with some friends and them saying something, which triggered the thought of my parents, which triggered a feeling of me missing them, which sparked an emotion I didn't fully
Right.
understand until I put it down on paper. So um,
Mm. I
the
love it.
connection
That's
that
awesome,
happens
bro.
when you put the purpose in the pen, I think is amazing. I hope our
Yes.
listeners can take some things away from that. You mentioned the stuff you were working on now, and how you've been adjusting with COVID and the pandemic. I
Mm.
do want to talk about Manifest and the project you've really been pouring into
Yes.
lately, so the
Yes.
listeners can
I'm
hear more about
excited,
that.
man. Man, look here, man. Well, let me touch on before I go on that. Just for
Yeah.
those who do, kind of skeptical about writing, look, y'all, you ain't got to be a perfect person. I know sometimes people put poets on a pedestal. Alliteration. So we put poets on a pedestal. And I let people know I'm not a perfect person, man. And I tell people that, let them know that wherever you are in your life, you start from where you are. You know what I'm saying? And, just try to be a better version of yourself. But I'm a flawed person, but I got feelings, so I write them. Now the project, man, um, about 5 years ago, and this is me going through my second marriage and work. I'm like in a real bad place, but I was like, man, I've been rapping since I was like 11 or 12. I already did a solo album in 2009, but I recorded in my house. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't a lot of investment into it. I put it out there, but I was like, I want to do this series. I really want to do this, and I hit my homeboy. Shout out my man DeMalo. I was like, man, I want you to be my executive producer because he's been signed before, and I want you to guide me this process. So I did an EP about 3 years ago, and so after that, I was working on Manifest. It took me a couple of years, but I knew the vision, I knew the time and the quality I wanted to put into it, and and it's professionally recorded. And I'm saying something, and I want to make sure it's jamming. Because a lot of times when people say they got some conscious rap, it's whack. I'm gonna be real, it ain't that great. I did what you're saying, but they ain't jamming. And my man Andre 3000 said, they said people come to Outkast all the time. We're gonna be like, y'all, man, make some far out space music. He said, yeah, but make sure it's jamming though. It's jamming, and I wanted to make sure I got the right beats, right producers with it. And I'm proud of the project. 15 tracks, 4 skits. I brought the skits back on the album.
Nice.
Shout out to the lovely Big O, Tone Hollywood, J. Dew. They donated some time to do some skits for me. Yeah, so I really put it together. Oh yeah, the skits are funny, but I want to add some humor because the songs are kind of really heavy.
Yeah.
But I have some humorous skits in between, so I want to have a balance in the album, man. And got some real cool guest appearances and got some real cool songs that you can bob your head to, you can think to, but you be like, wow, and feel good. And right now on my Bandcamp, I got over 2,000 plays. I just released it the 31st of July.
Okay.
So yeah, about maybe 3.5, 4 weeks now.
Yeah,
and,
fresh out.
And and a lot of people listen to it. And a lot of people telling me, Jam, like, I have people like call me and had the music playing in the background.
Yeah,
I'm loving this album.
I'm trying to think of one song. I was listening to it the other day. It started with an A, I think. What was the name of that song?
With the A? Hold on, I got my CD right here.
I'm looking for it right now because I was playing it.
Let me see with an A. Oh, yeah. CD, y'all. It's a CD right here, Manifest.
There you go, Manifest. Oh, it didn't start with an A. It was the long way. The long way.
Me and DeMalo. Yeah, the long way.
The long way. I was thinking A, but that was from Way. But man, it's a great album. I hope our listeners. I'm going to make sure to have a link for our listeners so they can check it out.
And it's on every streaming platform, man. Spotify, Tidal, Google Play. It's on all that. iTunes. Yeah, it's on that.
Awesome. How can folks reach you on other platforms, whether it's Spotify, Instagram, Facebook? I know you've been doing the open mics on Instagram too.
Yeah, the midday open mic hosted by that guy, Moody Black. Oh, that's my little shtick, that guy. Every day, Eastern Standard Time, 2:00, Monday through Friday. Hour, sometimes 2 hours. And people just come in, we talk it up. They share poems. Some people come and sing songs. A couple people play instruments. And we formed a tribe. We call ourselves the Ain't Right Tribe. We ain't right, but we still here. Yeah, that's our motto. Because we're not, like I said, nobody's perfect, man. But you start where you are and you grow and heal from that point on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's I got my little group of misfits and we celebrate and being ain't right. We know we ain't right, but you know what? We growing, we healing, we still here. That's what it's all about. So that's what that is. But caught the album. You can find me. IamMoodyBlack.com. I am Moody Black everywhere. Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm there. Facebook, Instagram. I am Moody Black.
I love it. And I'll have all those links in the show notes so people can go ahead, just cop that. I'll be sure to link the album as well. Manifest. Yes. I think our listeners are really going to enjoy it. And I appreciate you being on the podcast today, man. I learned a lot about poetry, but more so I learned the importance of not just applying our emotions and putting it to paper, but also the importance of taking on a craft and pouring ourselves into it and having the humility to be less than perfect and having the humility to find our voice little by little, because as we take on anything in life, we first have to learn before we could be competent at it. Absolutely. Any parting words you'd like to give with our listeners, our guests, before I let you go today?
Cop the album. You can play it for your grandma and still gonna be jamming. You good.
Yeah,
But
I love it.
man, y'all, hey, man, be good, be great, be kind, love yourself, be easy on yourself, man, but be hard on yourself at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, man, just love life.
Love
It's
life.
every minute, man. Love
Every
life.
moment. Thank you so
Manifest
much.
your destiny, baby.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
And
man.
some of the things you dropped along the way is in terms of like when you first had that bug, poetry can talk to me. I wrote that because I think we've
Yeah.
all had that quote, the coupling of words that just hits us and hits that stroke in a certain way, and then wear it on your sleeve. I'm encouraging the
Yes.
listeners, whatever your
Yes. Wear these
craft is,
sleeve, man.
wear it on your sleeve. Who you are, wear who you are on your sleeve, and then apply the skills you have into the many avenues that are around you,
Yes.
and stay connectable, stay relatable. You want, no matter how deep in your craft you get, no matter how great you get, you have to understand that there needs to be a bridge between those that enjoy your art and those that are on that same level as you. You have to bridge that gap, because if you don't, no one will actually feel that connection. I think those are some of the great points, and plenty more. I hope our listeners go back and listen to this a couple
No
more
doubt. No
times.
doubt.
Moody Black, thank you so much. And to the listeners,
No, thank you, man.
yes,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you so much to the listeners. And as we always say at the end of the episode, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure
Ah,
without a little pain.
hey, let's go. I love it, man. I
Yes,
love it.
sir.
Let's go.
Let's grow. The No Rain, No Rainbows podcast is recorded at Camaraderie, a collective workspace in Greenville, South Carolina, right off the Swamp Rabbit Trail. If you're looking for a place to grow your business, network with other professionals, and establish your own workspace, Camaraderie is the place to do so.